My daughter Makayla came home one cold February day in 2014. She was a 7-year-old doing what 7-year-old girls do, playing games in the backyard, climbing trees, experimenting with fashion, and teasing her little brothers. Now, during Black History Month, Makayla began a quest for knowledge about a topic which I imagined discussing with her in a few years. But Makayla took a step that I never would have imagined myself taking as a child in the 1970s when she asked me, "Daddy, is Ruby Bridges still alive?" I wasn't sure. I looked into it and found out that not only is Ruby Bridges still alive, she's young. In fact, she's only 15 years older than I am. So I found an address for Ruby Bridges, and 2 days later, Makayla, at 7 years old, wrote a 2.5-page letter to her explaining why she is Makayla's hero. So I seized this opportunity to teach Makayla more about civil rights, but I did it through the eyes of baseball. I truly believe baseball played an extremely important role in the civil rights movement and in improving race relations in the United States. So I showed her baseball cards of Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige, Larry Doby, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron. I also showed Makayla the autographs of Hall of Fame Negro Leaguers Ray Dandridge, Leon Day, Cool Papa Bell, Monty Irvin, Judy Johnson, and Buck Leonard. She loved it all. And this is when Makayla shocked me and brought this whole thing to the next level when she said, "Why don't you write letters too?" I never thought about that. Up until that point, if I saw an autograph on eBay that I liked, I just bought it and added it to our collection. It never occurred to me that I could actually correspond with these players through mail and speak with them on the phone. So I began to write letters, and thus began one of the most rewarding journeys I've ever been on. I have now written over 200 letters in an attempt to locate any living members of the Negro Leagues, and astonishingly, we have heard back from about 60 living players. We have also heard back from the last living owner of a Negro League team, Minnie Forbes, as well as the last remaining umpire from the Negro Leagues, Bob Motley. The responses we have received have been very generous. We have had players send us autographs, their own personal baseball cards, newspaper articles, personal photographs, and even memorabilia. We will cherish all of these mementos forever. However, what really strikes me about their responses are their stories and willingness to share them. There are countless stories about the players who made it to the major leagues, but seldom do we read about the players who, for the love of the game, continued playing segregated baseball into the 1950s and 60s. Their story is a compelling account of an America struggling with itself to establish a new identity. In corresponding with these players over the last year and a half, one thing has become very clear to me. These men have amazing stories of inspiration that need to be shared and which deserve our attention. Unfortunately, several of the players we have heard back from have since passed away. This is a very sobering reminder that their stories need to be shared. When Democrat and Chronicle writer Jim Memmott wrote an article about our project this past February, it was clear to me that we need to do something to honor these players now. He asked me during the interview where I see this whole project going, and it was a very easy answer. We need to have an event here in Rochester sooner rather than later to honor these players, hear what they have to say, and take their memories with us. 4 of these players, Ike Walker, Ray Knox, Bill McCrary, and Dennis Biddle, have accepted our invitation to come to Rochester and share their stories and memories with us. They are the human stories of men who simply wanted to play baseball whatever the costs. Men who would learn to love and sometimes loathe the game that helped define America. Men whose stories have largely gone untold, yet unwittingly became such an important part of baseball, civil rights, and America. Their stories about their struggles and their sacrifices and their accomplishments deserve to be shared with our future generations. This is how we all got here tonight to this event. They stepped up to the plate. Jim Zapp was born on April 18, 1924 in Nashville, Tennessee. He began playing baseball in 1942 while stationed in Hawaii, and his Navy team won back-to-back championships in 1943 and 1944. After his discharge from the Navy, Zapp began his professional career with the Baltimore Elite Giants in 1945 when they were in the Negro National League. He played in Baltimore in 1945 and 46 before joining the Atlanta Black Crackers in 1947. In 1947, this hard-hitting outfielder hit 11 home runs and gained the attention of the Birmingham Black Barons, where he earned an outfield position the following spring. During the regular season in 1948, Black Barons manager Piper Davis gave Zapp a rest and inserted a teenage rookie named Willie Mays in his left field spot for the second half of a doubleheader. Later in the season, when center fielder Norman Robinson broke his leg, Mays stepped in and used the opportunity to demonstrate his defensive skills on an everyday basis. Although Mays had trouble hitting a curve and was not a significant offensive factor, his fielding earned him the starting position in center field next to Jim Zapp. When Robinson eventually returned to the lineup, he was inserted into left field to utilize his speed and glove, and Zapp was displaced for a short time. Fortunately, Zapp fought his way back into the lineup in time for the playoffs. His bat helped Birmingham nail down the Negro American League title when in Game 3 of the League Championship Series against the Kansas City Monarchs. Sorry, Bill. With his team down, he homered in the bottom of the ninth inning to tie the game. This clutch performance started the ninth inning rally in which Birmingham would go on to win 4-3 and gain a one-game advantage in the playoffs. He played with several semi-pro and minor league teams between 1949 and 1955 before retiring from baseball and going to work as a sports director for the United States Air Force's Civil Service Division in Big Springs, Texas, where he retired in 1979. A lifelong dedication to baseball and to youth, he also coached youth baseball and umpired for 20 years. Jim sent us autographed cards last April, just before his 90th birthday. We are honored to have them as part of our collection as, unfortunately, Mr. Zapp is now in end-stage Alzheimer's and unable to respond to letters or phone calls. We have maintained contact with the Zapp family through his son, James, himself a retired Army Sergeant Major. Mr. Zapp wasn't expected to make it to his 91st birthday this past April, but he is continuing his fight to this day. Jim Zapp epitomizes what they stepped up to the plate is all about. Facing hardships and adversity, Jim never gave up, and like the players before you, he stepped up to the plate. With the blessings and approval of the Zapp family, we are proud to announce the first ever Jim Zapp Courage Awards, and we present them to Ike Walker, Ray Knox, Bill McCrary, and Dennis Biddle. Here with me tonight to help present the awards is Congresswoman Louise Slaughter.
So I'm delighted to be here tonight. I'm so happy just to be a part, to be in the room with him. And Ike is my constituent, so he's very special, but I have first dibs on him. So let's give away these plaques here. The first Jim Zapp Courage Award is presented to Bill McCrary, given in recognition and appreciation for your contributions to civil rights and to baseball. You are a role model of courage and an inspiration to us all. We commend you for your fortitude and perseverance in the face of adversity. we call it the face of adversity, but it was more than that, wasn't it? And as a community, we thank you for your sacrifices and for the memories shared. They stepped up to the plate. 2015. Bill? And I've got a congressional thing on that other stack. The second one goes to Dennis Biddle. And they are so wonderful, and they say the same thing that the first one did, but it's so extraordinary and so wonderful. I think it's really hard, isn't it, to think of a lifetime of great things that you've known about these people, to have 4 of them in Rochester tonight. We are so lucky. And believe you me, I'm the lucky one to be standing here on this platform with them. Dennis? And to Ray Knox. Ray? I get a hug. Congratulations to Ray. And to my Rondequoit neighbor, Ike Walker. And I have congressional things that we'd like to hand out as well. And it just recognizes you by the Congress of the United States, first to Dennis. Dennis, we're just passing down. I don't want you to have to get up and down. To Ray. To Bill. And again to Ike. Thank you. And I've got 2 more, if I just give me another second. The congressional recognition for Makayla Klein. And I want to read Makayla, in honor of your mature ability to recognize inequality through the Stepped Up to the Plate event, I eagerly look forward to your future accomplishments. Congratulations. And one for Jeff Klein. I've always known him as an exceptional human being. And Jeff, we really appreciate, as the Congress would, what you've done putting all this together. Thank you.
Today, we recognize and honor Makayla for her leadership and for her vision and her support. And I want to thank her parents for their support of her. And that's really what this is all about. Supporting our children when they have a vision and supporting them to make sure that they understand not only their history, because you have to understand where you've been to understand where you're going. And so I'm thankful that we were able to have this at our recreation center and invite our recreation children to be a part of this story and to hear it for themselves, because that's what's important, to pass on to the next generation, not only the sacrifices, but the vision and the courage it took for them to stand up in the face of adversity and play on. And I'm thankful for their leadership. I'm thankful to them for their courage, but I'm also thankful that they were willing to be trailblazers for all of us. And so on behalf of the citizens of Rochester, I too want to present a certificate to each of you, and it says, for your outstanding career in Eagle Baseball League and for your role in bringing about lasting social change, you are an inspiration for those who love the game and all who seek a brighter future. Thank you all for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce my inspiration, my hero, my daughter, Makayla.
Good evening. My name is Makayla Klein, and I am a 4th grader in the Honeoye Falls Lima School District. What started as a letter I wrote to Ruby Bridgers when I was 7 years old has become this event. They stepped up to the plate. I am very happy to be here and to be able to introduce our guests tonight. Our first guest played baseball for the 1963 Satchel Paige All-Star. He was a catcher with a lifetime batting average of .298. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Rochester's very own Mr. Isaac Ike Walker.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Isaac Walker. I was born 6/7/41, Lakeland, Florida. Graduated from Rochester High School in 1960. I have a big family, 7 brothers and 3 sisters. We're 2 years apart. I'm the 5th oldest of the boys. 2 of my brothers played in the Negro League. My second oldest brother, Johnny Walker, and my 4th oldest brother, Oscar Walker. Johnny Walker was a pitcher. He played 1 year with the Raleigh Tigers. Oscar Walker graduated in 1958, and he played 2 years with the Raleigh Tigers. He was a second baseman. He signed a contract with the Raleigh Tigers, a contract for $275 a month. What happened with that is when you look up in the stands and there's no people out there, those dollar bills go away. So they don't honor those contracts. So my dream growing up was to be a professional baseball player. I played 3 sports in high school: basketball, baseball, and football. My journey started, I played American Legion ball, I played high school baseball, and I played baseball all across the state of Florida. Attended a lot of professional baseball tryout camps. Some days we would have 50 to 100 ball players show up. At the end of the workouts, the scouts would tell us, sorry, you're good players, but the issue was it was a quota. The teams only had so many blacks that they would carry. I played during the time of racist prejudice, and there was time where my white teammates, we had to stay in separate areas. And I think that kind of hindered my ability to be able to get into the big league. In 1962, 63, I was a catcher for Satchel Paige. We called ourselves Satchel Paige All-Stars, and we storming all over the country. We played about 111 games, and we won 96, and we lost 15. My 4th oldest brother, Oscar Walker, he was on the team with me, and he played second base. Satchel Paige was a person that he always carried himself in a professional manner, and he taught us the same way, and he told us, forget about all the other stuff, just continue the path that you're on. And I like to think that the way we carried ourselves as a professional, it helped the players that are playing today. Now, if we had failed, I believe that some of the players will not be in baseball. Satchel Paige was a person that he was all business. We had to come to work every day and play hard. We did not mess around because that's not his style. We had touring with him, we had 16 ball players, and we played all over the country. And we played up in Canada, and we played in South Dakota and North Dakota. And we handled ourselves pretty good. And then some days I would ask Satchel Paige, hey Satch, how old are you? And Satch said, don't worry about my age. Try and live as long as me. When we played up in Canada, Satchel Paige, he would camp outside of town and we would stay in a hotel. And when we played out in South and North Dakota, he did the same thing, camped out. There were some key moments playing with Satchel Paige. We played in Omaha, Nebraska, and there was like 5,000 to 7,000 fans at the ballpark. What happened? The pitcher and the catcher, they painted their face black. Satchel Paige called the umpire and the manager to the mound. And he said, tell those clowns to take that stuff off their face. We will not play a game today. So what they did, the game was delayed for half an hour until the two clowns took the paint off their face. So we started the game. And the day, Satchel Paige pitched 6 innings. In the 4th inning, we made a couple of errors. We have 2 runners on base. Satchel was hot. He called timeout. He brought the outfielders into the infield. He called me to the mound. And he said, let's go to work. He struck out the next 3 batters. And as he left the mound, the crowd gave him a standing ovation. In St. Lazare, up in St. Lazare, Manitoba, we played an exhibition game. And Satchel Paige, in his contract, he had to pitch 3 innings per game. This particular game, he pitched 2 innings. One of the innings, he pitched from second base. He was such an incredible person. In 1963, my brother Oscar and I, we signed a pro contract with the New York Mets organization. We was assigned to the New York Penn League. We didn't get any bonus money. We had what we called in the day was like bird dog scouts. These are people that go around, riding around, trying to find ball players to make a little bit of money. And this particular scout, he had my brother and I, another player. We was on a playground going through some drills, and he was sitting in his car. And when he talked to us. He said he'll go back and talk to his management to see if they can get some money for us. But when he came back, he said he didn't have enough time to look at us and see what we can do. So what happened, we was assigned to Williamsport AA, and he told my brother Oscar, you would get a $25 bonus if you make the AA Williamsport team. During spring training, I was catching, and my brother had hit a single, he was on first base. And what happened, I picked him off. He hurt his ankle trying to get back to the bag. So when we had a chance to go to Auburn, we played in Auburn, New York. And that was the Class A team. And there was one incident that happened. We was playing a game and we played a team called the Batavia Pirates. Now my brother Oscar, he was sitting in the dugout. I was down in the bullpen warming up a pitcher. So Cito Gaston, he played with the Batavia Pirates. He hit a home run, and as he was rounding third base, my manager called him the N-word. Now, he didn't realize that my brother Oscar was still sitting in the dugout. And to do that, that was really bad. And from that, Cito Gaston, he's a Hall of Famer. He managed Toronto Blue Jays for 2 years, and now he's in the Hall of Fame. So that didn't work out too good with the Mets, so we was let go. So we had, when we played up in Canada, this one team, St. Cloud, Manitoba, my brother Oscar, he called up the manager, and he said, we tried to recruit you guys when you came up in '63. So he said, come on up. You can play for us anytime. So we got the plane ticket, and we get to St. Cloud, and my brother Oscar, he played for 4 years up there, '63, '64, '65, and '66. I played 2 years, '63 and '64. And what they called us, we was like impact players. There was 3 of us, my brother Oscar, and a pitcher by the name of Dave Pearson, and myself. I played 3 positions. I was a catcher, I was a pitcher, and I played the outfield. And I had a batting average of .287 for that year. My brother Oscar, 1964, he was he batted .352. 1965, he was the batting champion. He batted .452. He was the most valuable player of the league. And he made the All-Star team 2 years in a row. First team. Through this. June 2009, we get a phone call. We was inducted and to the Manitoba Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Our next guest played baseball for the 1950 to 51 Chicago American Giants. He was a catcher and base stealing specialist with a lifetime batting average of .265. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Ray Boo Boy Knox.
Hello, everybody. I ain't much of a speaker. I was a ball player. Yeah, I was a catcher. Everybody loved it to see me catch. If all these people here right now, if they'd have saw me when I was playing, they'd have been waiting when I come in the gate. Said, boy, we're going to see you show out today. I catch the ball. Yeah, I played with the Chicago American Giants, New Orleans Eagles, and the Hardwood Sports out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yeah, I could play ball. I could run. Wasn't no long ball hitter, but I could bunt the ball. I was a catcher, but I played like a shortstop or something like that. Yes, indeed. And people still see me and tell me about when I was playing ball. Yes, indeed. And I loved it, the game. I loved it to play ball. Yes, Lord. I traveled all over. Like you said, I played Canada and everywhere. Played all over the South and everywhere. But like he was saying, I had a friend, he could pass a white, and we would travel in the bus. We rode in the bus. There wasn't no train, no plane. He'd have to go in there. We'd have to sit on the bus, and he'd go in the restaurant and get the food. We'd eat it on the bus and travel on to another city. Because we couldn't go in the restaurant, a lot of them. But we didn't care about that. We wanted to play ball, and we could play team. And I could catch that ball. I didn't allow nobody to steal. People coming from all over to see me stop runners and no, you couldn't steal on me. Yeah, and I bet it's about 265 or something like that. But I'd bunt the ball and get on base. I had a good time. I had a good time playing ball. Wasn't no hard thing. I didn't care what nobody said and thing. I come to play, and I played. Yeah, and I loved it. I ain't much of a speaker, so I'm gonna let somebody else go ahead and speak.
Our third guest played baseball for the 1946 to 48 Kansas City Monarchs, where the legendary Satchel Paige took him under his wing. He was a shortstop with a lifetime batting average of .341. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Bill Youngblood McCrary.
I will let you know right away that I'm not a speaker either, but I can say a little bit about my career. I started playing baseball in Beloit, Wisconsin, and I went to school there. But the thing was that there was a plant in Beloit, Wisconsin called Fairbanks and Morris, and they had built some flats for the workers that they would go down south and get, and that's where they stayed. Well, I was born in one of those flats, and I went from there to Bird School and then Lincoln Junior High. And in Lincoln Junior High, they gave me the largest L that the school had ever gave out, and that was for baseball, basketball, track, and wrestling. After that time, I got into American Legion ball, and my coach was Harry Pullman. And Harry Pullman called me up one day and asked me, he says, Bill, you're going to the tryouts? I said, what tryouts? He says, St. Louis Cardinals are having a tryout. I said, well, they're not taking any blacks, so why should I go? So then he asked me, he says, go for the experience. I said, I don't need it. That man got in his car, came over to my house, made me get on my bicycle, and he followed me to the tryouts. And once I got there, I went through, all the things that they wanted me to do, or the ball players. And at the end of the tryout, they call you to the center of the diamond. And they want to talk to you, or they'll tell you what to work on. I didn't go to the center of the diamond. I got on my bike and went home. About 6 o'clock that night, the coach and the scout, Runt Myers was his name, Marrs, came to my house and they said, we want to talk to your dad and you. And I told them, I said, well, I'll get my dad. I got my dad, so they asked my dad, says, you think he'd like to go to play baseball? My dad said, I don't know, ask him. So they asked me, and they said, well, I know that I can't take you to the St. Louis Cardinals, because that's what the tryout was for. He says, but I can get you a tryout for one of the best teams in the Negro League, and that was Kansas City Monarchs. So they got that set up, and I went down there. And when I made the team, Satchel Paige called everybody together and said, now we have some young blood. And that was my nickname from that day on in my pro life. There was a lot of things that happened that people should hear, but there's a lot of things you can't talk about. We had it real rough on the road. We'd go to places to play baseball. We'd have to park at the city limits at night, go in the next day and play the game. Well, this happened to us in a town, I don't remember the town now, but it was in Oklahoma. And I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings, but we pulled up to the city limits and parked our bus. The policeman rode around that bus every hour on the hour. They would not let us get out of the bus. Well, the next morning, we hear all this noise. And it was a band coming towards the bus. And we wondered what the heck was it, And what it was, they were going to escort us into town before the ball game. And the reason why they escorted us into town, a tornado went through that town the day before, and it went straight through the white section. The black section was standing there, hanging out clothes, and the sun was shining. I can't remember the name of the town, but this happened. Those are things, some of the things that you run into. I also like to tell you that in my career, and I played with in the Yankee farm system and the Cub farm system. And I played with in the Yankee farm system, I played with the Fargo-Moorhead Twins. There again, I was the only one there. When I say that, I mean the only black. There was only 2 blacks in the whole town. It was a real old man, and you saw him maybe once a year, and by myself. But I had a good friend on the ball club. Every day this guy would come by, pick me up and take me for a ride in his car, and we'd just go to places and eat, and we could go anywhere. And the owner of the ball club owned a billiard hall, and we'd always go in there and shoot pool. Plus we could shoot free. Well, when this man, when baseball ended in Fargo, North Dakota, I was married at about that time. But I didn't have any children. And soon as my son was born, I named him after that man, Tracy. And this is my son right here. Yeah, he tells everybody that. But it doesn't make any difference. I know who showed me how to play baseball. There was a man in my hometown named Lonnie Edwards. And he walked up to me one day and he says, I am going to make a ball player out of you. And truthfully, that man helped me all the way to American Legion ball. Because in my hometown, even it being in Wisconsin, it was segregated just as bad as it was in the South. But he taught me how to play baseball, and he just grabbed me by the hand and just pulled me and make me do things, you know. And finally, he turned me over to Harry Pullman, which was a white coach that took over the American Legion. And Harry Pullman right now has a field in my hometown named after him, Harry Pullman. And I'll never forget him as long as I live. And I don't think he ever forgot me either. That's about it for me.
Our last guest played baseball for the 1953 to 54 Chicago American Giants. He was a pitcher with an ERA of 1.65. He is known as the man who beat the man who beat the man. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Dennis Bose-Biddle.
Thank you, baby. First, giving honor to the Almighty God, thanking Him for this blessed day, and to the senator and the mayor of this lovely city. I also want to thank Jeff Klein for giving us, thank you, for giving us an opportunity to share with Rochester some of the history of the Negro Baseball League. Most of the players tonight have told about themselves and their part they played in it. I want to bring you greetings, though, from 58 players that are still living that played in the Negro Baseball League. These players live all over the country. 31 of them is 90 or more years old. I represent them. I am the youngest living player. I am the president of a foundation that was set up not only to benefit the players, but to educate our young people about the true history of the Negro Baseball League. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of our history have been distorted, misquoted, and swept under the rug. And these old men that are living today made sure that they passed this history, some of it down to me, and made sure that I would pass it on to my young people so they'll know the history of the Negro Baseball League. Now, it would take me months to stand up here talking about the whole history. The history started way back in the late 1800s when black men were playing in the major leagues. Moses Fleetwood Walker would be the first black man to play in the major leagues, and also the last one. But there were a lot of black men playing in the major leagues. And what happened, the owners of the major league got together and voted. Each team voted that they would not hire another black man to play on their team. And ladies and gentlemen, overnight, all of the great black ball players, and there were a lot of them playing in the major leagues, they disappeared from the major league role. And the Supreme Court passed a law that helped them, that said to segregate is legal. So they got away with it. All of these great black ball players, it would be 63 years later before Jackie Robinson. But these ball players did not go away, and they went away and formed teams of their own. And they made baseball what it is called today, ladies and gentlemen, American greatest pastime. These men played and they died. A lot of their names will never be known. I look at books they write now talking about Negro League Encyclopedia. A lot of the names not even in there. And it bothers me. Why would they write a book and sell it talking about the complete history of the Negro Baseball League? There's no complete history. There's no book describing the complete history of the Negro Baseball League. I'm going to give you some history tonight, a part of history that was passed down to me. Now, the ball players here gave you their history, and I could give you mine, but mine is in 2 books. One is called Voices from the Negro League. You can read about my autobiography there. But I want to share with you tonight some of the history that was not written down. I'm going to share with you tonight some history that was passed down to me as a 17-year-old playing in the Negro Baseball League, riding that bus every day with these old living legends who knew that the history was going to be messed up. I had no idea why they was telling me about history that happened before I was born. They knew it was going to happen. So I'm going to start by saying in 1920, a young man by the name of Rube Foster started the Negro Baseball League. And a lot of time as I speak around the country, I'm called on the carpet when I say Negro. Why don't you say Afro-American? Well, when we played ball, and when the league started in 1920, it was called the Negro Baseball League. It'll always be called the Negro Baseball League. It died by the end of 1960. But a lot of things happened during that time. In 1920, Rube Foster said, if they won't let us play in the major leagues, we'll start our own major leagues. So there's 2 major leagues, one white, one black, and it was unequal. Some of the greatest baseball players, ladies and gentlemen, played in the Negro Baseball League. Those tremendous talents that they had would never be known to the public because a lot of the history was not written down. Thank God for 3 black newspapers: the Chicago Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier, and the Memphis Courier. Thank God for those 3 black newspapers because they followed every game that the Negro League players played around the country. They recorded it. In 1949, when the league died, 1949, it died and came back to life in 1950. Everything that happened in the Negro League was recorded. It's in a book called Only the Ball Was White. Thank God for whoever wrote that book because they recorded a lot of the history that would have been swept under the rug. In 1950 to 1960, you find very little written down about the Negro Baseball League. And I'm going to tell you why that happened. From 1920 to 1929, these great baseball players made baseball the greatest pastime. They did unbelievable things in a sport that was called the white man's sport, baseball. There are plays that they are doing today, ladies and gentlemen, in the major leagues that came from the Negro Baseball League. The hit and run is a famous play they use in the major league. It came from the Negro Baseball League. In the Negro League, it was called the bunt and run because those guys could run so fast. A lot of time, managers from those major league teams would sneak in the game that the Negro League players played and study their style and their techniques and take them back to the major leagues and implement them. So a lot of things they are doing in the major leagues today came from the Negro Baseball League. The helmet that the little leaguers wear to protect their head. Ladies and gentlemen, it came from the Negro Baseball League. I'd like to tell you about one day, one of the players got beamed on the head and he died. And his best friend was about ready to give up the game because of that, because a lot of players got hit with that hard ball and got injured. But he had an idea because his uncle worked at a coal mine. And ladies and gentlemen, he took a hacksaw and he cut that hub out of that coal miner's hat. And every time he would go to bat, he would put this on his head. And he looked funny. Oh man, they laughed at him. Every time he'd go to bat, he put it on his head. But as it would happen one day, he got beamed on the head. And that hub saved his life. And like everything else, it didn't take long for that to get around the league, what had happened. So it didn't take long before you saw funny looking hubs all over the Negro Baseball League. And some engineer saw a need for a batting helmet to protect the head and invented the helmet that the young leaguers, the senior leaguers, the high school, the college, and the pros wear today. That's just one of the things. There was many things that happened in the Negro League. Their style and their technique was different than that of the Major League. And 1929, ladies and gentlemen, I'm moving along, but 1929, the Negro League ended. It died, because that was the start of the Depression. It wasn't the money. No money. We wasn't making any money in the first place, but there was no money. The team could not survive. But thank God, those teams had made a name for themselves. There were 16 owners. Most of them was white businessmen, brought back those teams. And I often wonder, why did they do this? They did it to make more money. They knew what an industry that was. And they brought back those 16 teams and they went underground. I'm telling you this because I have done some investigation. I wanted to find some of those owners. Most of them was white. We had 2 or 3 black owners, but the rest, most of them was white businessmen. They did this to make more money. They knew the style and techniques of these great baseball players. So they went, the first business, order of business, they went to these major league parks. And they rented those parks for the Negro League teams to play in when the major league team was out of town. Now, this was a start of Negroes in baseball. And my young people, I want to say to you today, the mere thought of Jackie Robinson, and everybody talk about Jackie being the first to play in the major league. No, he was not the first in the major league. In Reconstruction years, yes, but he was not the first to play in the major league. But the mere thought of Jackie Robinson, my young people, had nothing to do with the major league ready to integrate. And I want you to know that I know you're right about it. It was economics to make more money. The Negro League team in the major league park drew more fans than the Major League did in their own park. This was a mere thought of Jackie Robinson. The first commissioner of Major League Baseball name was Mountain Kensaw Landers. He did not like to see black and whites playing together, so he kept it going. But he died, 1944. Kensaw died and Happy Chandler took over the helm and called all of those owners into the room and told them, this is embarrassing to me. I'm commissioner of Major League Baseball. We will not let these guys play on our team, but yet we rent them our park and they draw more fans than we do. But those owners had done this so long they was afraid to take the chance. But a young man named Branch Rickey took the chance. But I want you to know he was a businessman also. Branch knew what he was getting ready to do was going to be a devastating blow to the Negro Baseball League. He knew that. So he set in motion a long-range goal. And his goal was to, when it did happen, we're going to use the Negro League team as a minor league system for the Major League. Ladies and gentlemen, that would have given these old men living today some credibility. But it didn't materialize because he did not know, Rickey didn't know who owned those teams, because those owners that went underground had black men fronting as they owned the team. So if you go to a lot of these old players that's living today in their 90s and ask them, who was the manager of your team? He will give you a name. But who was the owner of your team? He would give you a name, but he didn't own the team. He was fronting for the owner. And that was the reason thing was, after the end of the Negro League, was messed up for our young people, their history. These owners had a good idea to make money, but what they was doing was making history. They was bringing back a part of American history that had been swept under the rug, the Negro Baseball League. Right there in Chicago, where I played, on a Friday night, the White Sox would play and draw 20,000 people. Chicago American Giants would come in there on a Saturday night playing the Kansas City Monarchs and draw 35,000 people. Ladies and gentlemen, it didn't only happen in Chicago, it happened in Cleveland, it happened in Detroit, it happened in St. Louis, everywhere in New York. Everywhere there were a Negro League team, they drew more fans than that of the Major Leagues. This was a mere thought of Jackie Robinson. In 1944, Kensaw Landers died. Happy Chandler took over and said he would not keep any owner that want to hire a black man to play on that team. Right away, Branch Rickey started looking for one black man. He interviewed hundreds of great black ball players. Each one he turned down. He turned them down because of their attitude. They did not understand, they would not accept what they would have to go through being the first one. Satchel Paige was turned down. Josh Gibson, the greatest home run hitter of all time, was turned down. Buck Leonard was turned down. My best friend, James Cool Papa Bell, was turned down. Cool Papa cursed him out. Said, man, I'm 45 years old. You're going to come ask me if I want to be the first one. So why didn't you ask me this 20 years ago? But he kept interviewing players after player. Jackie Robinson wasn't even in the league. And every time he show a movie or write a book about Jackie, they show where him and Branch Rickey got together. But that wasn't the way it happened, ladies and gentlemen. Jackie Robinson was in the Negro League for 1 year, being prepared to do what he did. These old men heard that Branch Rickey was looking for someone. And when Jackie came to the Kansas City Monarchs, they took him. They heard about, he was a great ball player, but he wasn't the best ball player. That's not why Rickey picked him. But they took Jackie because he had gone to UCLA, and he was educated. He had played with and against whites. That was okay. But you see, Jackie wasn't as passive as they made him out to be. See, these old men took him in there and prepared him to do what he did. They took him on the road with them, being called all kind of names, being spit on, being refused to eat in the restaurant, had to eat and sleep on the bus. Jackie went through all of this in the Negro League. And when they got him ready, when they got him to seduce himself, he's ready. They called Branch Rickey and said, "We got one." They don't tell you that, but that's what happened. They just show you Branch Rickey talking to Jackie. Branch Rickey said, "Jackie, would you do it?" Jackie said, "I'll do it." And he did. He opened that door for black men to play in the major league. But think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Being on a team, all white players, you're the only one of color. A lot of the players don't even want to associate with you. But yet you got to get up there and perform as a professional just like they did. You sit there on that bench and wait for your turn to come to bat. And I know you young people read about Pee Wee Reeves and Gil Hodges being his friend. Not at first. He made them his friend by hitting home runs and doubles and triples. That's how he made them his friend. But Jackie sat there day in and day out. All teammates didn't want to sit beside him in the dugout. He had to sit in the corner by himself. After the game, go in the restaurant, in the cafeteria to eat, Jackie had to sit in the corner by himself because none of the players wanted to sit beside him. And I often wondered about that. They didn't want a photographer taking a picture of them sitting by a black man, putting it in the newspaper the next day. So Jackie had to sit there alone. Time to go to bed. Poor Jackie had to be bussed across town because he couldn't sleep where the other players slept. He accepted this. He would come to the park the next day, go through the same routine, get his bat out of the batter's rack, walk up to the batter's box. He had to walk past fans in the stands, calling them all kind of names, spitting on him. And he'd walk up to the plate and do something he told Mr. Rickey he wouldn't do, and that's fight back. But he fought back with home runs, with doubles and triples. And Jackie Robinson opened the door. So all these young men that you know of today making millions and millions of dollars and don't even know who Jackie Robinson was, or care less. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie was a product of the Negro Baseball League. He did something for the black players that they should honor him for. But a lot of them didn't even know who he was. But what's so interesting about Jackie Robinson, after his baseball playing days, he joined Dr. Martin Luther King and he marched for equal rights for everyone. So Jackie, to me, was the greatest man that played the game of baseball. In 1955, the Major League broke up the Negro League by taking all of the young players. I was one of those young players. 1955, I went to the Cubs, and I had the opportunity to meet Jackie Robinson. I got a picture over there, his wife and I together. We're friends today. But Jackie, we had dinner downtown Chicago. It was 4 of us. And I sat across the table from him. And I was 19 years old. He looked at me and said, "Kid, they cannot write in a book or show in a movie what I went through." I said, "Mr. Robinson, did you ever think about quitting?" Because I did. 2 years I played in the Negro League, I thought about it many days, man. Couldn't eat in the restaurant, couldn't sleep in the hotel, had to eat and sleep on the bus, and call all kind of names and stuff, I thought about just walking away. He said, every day. He said, but I had made a promise that I will open the door so other young black players will be able to play in the major league. Ladies and gentlemen, that's something that'll always be with me as I speak around the country about this. That's a memory I'll always remember. I met him, and he, along with James Cool Papa Bell, to me, was the greatest baseball players to play the game. And there were some more. These owners made a lot of money. So by 1949, they was given an opportunity to use the Negro League as a minor league system, but they refused. They refused because they were making more money selling us to the major league. The way it was done, and in my book, I talk about it. In my book, I got a contract in here that I signed in 1953. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ernie Banks, all of us had these long binding contracts. The Major League, the Negro League got nothing for Jackie Robinson. They got nothing for Larry Doby. But those owners had all of their owners managed to sign all the young players to long binding contract. So if the Major League is interested, they got to purchase this contract. That's how all of us, the younger players, got to the Major League. We were nothing but free agents until we made the team. All of us had the long binding contract. When Bess Rickey got ready to implement his plan, they refused. And Mr. Rickey said, well, Jackie opened the door in 47. We don't have to come to you all for talent anymore. We can go to the same places that you go and get talent. And that was the playground, that was high schools and colleges. So that's why Reggie Jackson and Frank Robertson, all those great ball players, never had to come through the Negro Baseball League because the Major League went where they were and signed them. The Negro League team, ladies and gentlemen, they could not compete. So by the end of 1960, the league died. So what we have today is 58 players that are still living and made this history. There's so much more, but I want you to, my young people, I want you to look into the history that we are leaving you, because a lot of the history was not written down. And from the players that are still living, we are leaving it for you. And if you have any questions about anything, there's a foundation called Yesterday's Negro League Baseball Players Foundation. I am the president, but we will answer any question that you might have concerning the Negro Baseball League. I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and may God bless all of you. Thank you.